quilty friends! I'm Andy and this is True Blue Quilts, a place to enjoy, experiment, and excel as you quilt. Today we're talking about quilt shows. Have you ever entered a quilt in your local show? Or do you aspire to making something worthy of a national entry? I entered my quilt Castor Pollux in my state guild's annual show this year, and it just came home from the event and I want to tell you all about it. Now, my advice for quilters who want to enter their work into shows is to obviously do the best you can. A lot of people hesitate to enter shows because they're afraid of the feedback. They know that judges are going to look at every inch of the quilt and they may feel a little bit insecure about their workmanship. I go into a quilt entry with the philosophy that I know my quilt. I know where those errors are. So if that's all the judges notice, then I'm good because I already knew where those mistakes might be. I just want to share my work and give a little bit of inspiration to other people. And if no one was brave enough to enter their quilts, then we wouldn't have all of these fabulous examples to ooh and ah over at every show. So take the step and enter your quilt at least once. It's a great experience. Now, I knew that this quilt probably was not gonna win any big awards in the show. It ended up in the pieced category, solo quilter, because they do have a duet category if someone pieces the quilt and someone else finishes it with the quilting stitches. But since I made this quilt all by myself from start to finish, then it was a solo quilt. And they had so many entries in the traditional pieced category that things were divided up on the basis of size. So this is a small lap quilt, about 48 by 60-ish, and it entered in the small category. Here are the entries in the small pieced category. This double wedding ring was the first place winner. Lovely warm colors and beautiful quilting. The second place winner in this category was a fun, scrappy blue half square triangle design, hanging next to mine. And then we'll walk down a little further. You can see some of the other entries. Fun bookcase quilt. And this Bargello was the third place winner. So really colorful and fun. My guild also offered an experience called the Artist in Residence during the show. And you could sign up for a volunteer position and stand near your quilt and just talk to people about it. So it was really fun seeing the people come through the show and take a look at my quilt. The one disappointing thing was that right across the aisle from me was a queen size quilt that was all hand applique in these gorgeous funky flower motifs, just really intricate applique, all in bright K-facet material. It was a showstopper. People would walk down the aisle and their jaw would just drop. And then I'd tap them on the shoulder and say, hey, come look at my quilt that has some fun half rectangle triangles in it. And of course, everybody enjoyed all the quilts that were on display. And I certainly enjoyed being able to gaze across the aisle at such a beautiful work of art. It was just a kind of a funny juxtaposition there with that experience, but it was really fun. I have volunteered in the past as a white glove person. So you put on your white gloves and you pick up the corner of the quilt and show the backing. my guild has gone to a clothespin type procedure now, and so every quilt you can, just as a spectator, walk up and take hold of that clothespin and take a peek at the back of the quilt. It's always fun to see what fabric choices people make and to look at the beautiful designs on the back of the quilt. So I mentioned that people are nervous about feedback. I have the judges' comments right here, and we're going to take a look at them together. I have not peeked, so we'll see. I may edit out if it makes me too unhappy. But inside the envelope is this wonderful label. Our guild gives all participants a special exhibitor label to say that your quilt participated in the show. So that's a fun memento, and I'll be able to sew that on the back of my quilt. And the comments: incorporation of blue rectangles into star design suggests depth of field. So I think they liked the layout there and my color choices. Elongated star motifs add interest to the star design. So yes, I was trying to use my little bit different ideas of half rectangle triangles where most people are using half square triangles. Piecing is generally good. Okay, I'm not going to win any awards there, but some block intersections may have bulk reduced. So I guess they may have touched some of these points there, and I went right to one that's a little bit puffy there. And so, yeah, I probably could have done a little bit better job making sure all my intersections were flat. Take care at turns in machine quilting stitches to avoid thread buildup. Now, again, I did not quilt this with the intention of entering it in a show. I used a pantograph design, and it is a little bit difficult sometimes when you are following the laser light for an edge-to-edge design and you get these sharp points. You know, it's hard to keep a really consistent speed on your machine to make that smooth. You know, if you take a pause in a point, you're going to get extra stitches and extra thread. So yes, again, I did not use the care that I could have if I had intended from the start to exhibit this quilt. Quilting motifs chosen are appropriate for the theme, so they didn't see any glaring problem with the diamond shape that I used. 2 upper corners of borders should be trimmed to be square. So again, I'm not seeing exactly what they thought was out of square, but again, a little more attention to detail, maybe some blocking could have helped there. And they say binding is secure. So they, I guess, didn't have an issue with the binding, didn't need a special comment, but didn't seem to have a huge problem with how I did the binding on that. And this is my typical motif of where I sew it to the back and bring it around to the front with a straight stitch. So, you know, I didn't get any gold stars for exceptional effort on the binding, but again, overall, I'm pleased. They didn't find any real harsh aspects of the quilt to criticize, and, you know, a couple good constructive comments about the quilting motif and the squaring up. Again, things that I probably knew going in were not 100% perfectly accurate. But again, I wanted to get my little bit different style of quilting out in front of a wider audience. So I'm really glad I had the experience of entering my quilt in a quilt show. I'm interested to hear in what quilt shows are going on in your local area and what you have on the calendar for 2025. Let me know in the comments. Learn more about the Castor Pollux quilt and my little bit different block collection in this video. Thanks for watching.